There are places in this world where the shadows seem to breathe. The Whispering House was one of them. Perched atop a lonely hill, the Victorian mansion loomed against the twilight sky. Its weathered facade a patchwork of peeling paint and creeping ivy. For decades it had stood empty, a silent sentinel overlooking the sleepy town of Millbrook. Locals spoke of it in hushed tones, their eyes darting nervously as if the very mention of its name might summon something best left undisturbed. They said the house had a voice of its own. That on still nights, when the moon hung low and heavy, you could hear it calling, whispering secrets, promising answers to questions you never knew you had. Evelyn Cross didn't believe in ghost stories. As a graduate student in parapsychology, she'd heard them all before. But when a thesis advisor suggested she investigate the infamous Whispering House, Evelyn couldn't resist the opportunity. It was the perfect chance to prove herself. Maybe, just maybe, to uncover something truly extraordinary. Her colleagues warned her to stay away. They spoke of equipment, malfunctions, inexplicable cold spots, and the eerie sensation of being watched. But Evelyn just smiled, her green eyes bright with determination. She'd face whatever waited within those walls, armed with nothing but her wit, her camera, and an unshakable belief in the power of science. She should have listened. Tuesday, September 21st. 7:13 p.m. The sun had just dipped below the horizon when Evelyn S. beat-up Volkswagen rumbled to a stop at the foot of the hill. She stepped out, inhaling deeply. The air was thick with the scent of decaying leaves and something else. Something older and less likely to find. A chill ran down her spine, but she shrugged it off. Just pre-investigation jitters. Nothing more. Shouldering her backpack filled with equipment, Evelyn began the long trek up the overgrown path. Thorny vines snagged at her jeans, and unseen creatures rustled in the underbrush. By the time she reached the front gate, sweat beaded on her forehead despite the autumn chill. The wrought iron gate creaked open at her touch, as if welcoming her home. Evelyn paused, her hands still on the cold metal. For a moment, just a moment, she considered turning back, but then she squared her shoulders and pressed on. She had a job to do. The porch steps groaned beneath her weight as she approached the massive oak door. Its once ornate carvings were now worn smooth by time and the elements. Evelyn reached for the tarnished brass knob, but before she could touch it, the door swung inward with a low, mournful creak. She blinked, startled. "Hello?" she called out, her voice echoing in the cavernous void. "Is anyone here?" Silence answered her. Evelyn stepped inside, fumbling for her flashlight. The beam cut through the gloom, revealing faded wallpaper and dust-covered furniture. Everything looked as if it had been frozen in time, waiting for owners who would never return. She moved deeper into the house, her footsteps muffled by threadbare carpets. In the living room, a grand piano stood sentinel, its keys yellowed with age. Sheet music lay scattered across the floor, as if abandoned mid-song. Evelyn bent to examine one of the pages, but the notes seemed to swim before her eyes, rearranging themselves into patterns she couldn't quite grasp. The floorboard creaked overhead. Evelyn's head snapped up, her heart pounding. "Is someone there?" She called out, trying to keep her voice steady. No answer came, but she could have sworn she heard the faintest whisper of laughter. She shook her head, forcing herself to focus. She was here to conduct an investigation run wild. Methodically, She began to set up her equipment. EMF detectors, infrared cameras. Each device was carefully calibrated and positioned throughout the ground floor. As she worked, Evelyn couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Every so often, the air grew colder, and goosebumps prickled along her arms. Finally, with everything in place, Evelyn settled into an armchair in the center of the living room. She pulled out her notebook and pen, ready to document any unusual occurrences. "If there are any spirits present," she began, her voice clear and professional, "I invite you to communicate with me. You can use the devices I've set up, or the words died in her throat as every light in the house suddenly blazed to life." Evelyn leapt to her feet, heart racing. That was impossible. The electricity had been cut off decades ago. As quickly as they had come on, the lights went out, plunging her into total darkness. Her flashlight, sitting on the table beside her, refused to turn on. Evelyn fumbled for her phone, but the screen remained stubbornly black. And then she heard it. A whisper so faint she might have imagined it. But it grew louder, multiplying, until it seemed to come from every corner of the room. "Welcome home, Evelyn." She spun around, trying to locate the source of the voice. But it was everywhere and nowhere at once, seeming to emanate from the very walls themselves. "Who are you?" she demanded, fighting to keep the tremor out of her voice. "What do you want?" The whispers coalesced into a single voice, low and melodious. "We've been waiting for you, Evelyn. For so very long." A cold hand brushed against her cheek, and Evelyn stumbled backward with a cry. She collided with something solid about it, but when she reached out, there was nothing there. "Stop it," she shouted, anger overtaking her fear. "This isn't funny. Show yourself." The laughter returned, echoing through the house like the tinkling of broken glass. "Ooh. But, dear, showing ourselves. Dear? Dear? Dear me. You just don't know how to see us yet. But you will. We will. The temperature in the room plummeted. Evelyn's breath came out in visible puffs as she hugged herself, shivering violently. She needed to get out, to run, to escape this madness. But as she turned toward where she thought the door should be, she found only solid wall. No, she whispered, pressing her palms against the faded wallpaper. No, this isn't possible. Anything is possible here. Evelyn, the voice whispered, now right beside her ear. You wanted proof of the extraordinary, didn't you? Well, here we are. Invisible hands seized her arms, and Evelyn screamed. She thrashed and fought, but the grip was inexorable, dragging her toward the stairs. Up and up they went, past doors that opened and closed of their own accord, revealing glimpses of impossible rooms and forgotten memories. At last, they reached the attic.
Moonlight streamed through a circular window, illuminating a space filled with dust-covered trunks and antique mirrors.
Evelyn's captors released her, and she stumbled forward, gasping for breath. What do you want from me? She asked, her voice hoarse. The whispers surrounded her once more, a cacophony of voices speaking as one. We want you to stay, Evelyn. To become part of our story. To help us tell it to others who come seeking answers. Evelyn shook her head, backing away. No, I'm leaving, and you can't stop me. But as she turned to flee, she caught sight of her reflection in one of the mirrors. Her eyes widened in horror. The face staring back at her was not her own. It was older, gaunt, with hollow eyes that held centuries of secrets. You see, the voices said, triumphant, you're already one of us. You always have been. Evelyn's scream echoed through the empty house, mingling with the whispers that had called her home. And as the moon set and dawn broke over the hill, the whispering house stood silent once more, waiting for the next seeker of truth to stumble into its embrace. For there are places in this world where reality bends and breaks, where the line between past and present, living and dead, blurs into meaninglessness. The whispering house was one of them. And Evelyn Cross had just become its newest story.